All right. Good evening, everybody. Just checking in just to make sure. How's the sound? Let me know if you can hear me okay, please. Just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me all right. Wonderful. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Denise. So we'll go ahead and we'll start. We'll join palms and repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. Keeping the palms joined. And you can put the palms down. All right. Good evening, everybody. Nice to be with you all. Thanks for being here. Welcome to Intro to Buddhism and Meditation. I'm Jeff. You'll be stuck with me. I'll be leading you tonight. I always like to start with a question just to give people time to settle in and before we start the meditation, and also so people can communicate a little bit with each other, just kind of checking in. So I think the question that's really popping up in my head right now is around change, changes you make in your lives. Obviously, every day there's changes around us. Some of us love these changes. Some of us have resistance to change, aversion to change. But looking specifically at your own personal life and any changes you've made recently that have been beneficial for you, um, or maybe changes you've made that have not been beneficial for you. Let's just explore for a minute again while we're settling in before the meditation. What changes, if any, have you made in your life, and how have they impacted your life? If you don't want to be specific, that's fine. You can just maybe share, very vaguely or in general terms, or you could just say, "Yes, I've made some changes and they've helped," or "No, I haven't made any changes." I'll go ahead and type it in here on the chat box. If you are new to joining us, welcome. On the YouTube, there's a chat box there. Feel free to just type in. I'll type in the question here. What changes, if any, have you made in your life, and how have they impacted you and those around you? So what changes, if any, have you made in your life, and how have they impacted you and those around you? So pretty simple question. If you are not comfortable sharing, that's fine, but feel free just to take a few moments and share something in the chat box about changes. I think that, we look at Buddhist practice and meditation and, all these great teachings. But if they're things that we don't actively engage in making changes in our lives, then they really just become more of this intellectual thing that we explore. really the idea behind recognizing one's suffering and moving beyond that into a place of peace and happiness and joy. It requires a lot of change, and it doesn't mean all of that change is sudden. It doesn't all happen at once. It doesn't have to be drastic changes, but really slow changes over time can drastically impact your life. So, um, I mean, I know for me, and probably the last 18 years I've been at this practice, the changes have been a ton. And some of the changes were difficult at first, and some of them were easy. Some of them I resisted. Some of them I enjoyed. Some of them were much easier than others. But again, I think it's good in your own life just to explore changes. So let's see. I'll share what people are typing in here. Denise, we eliminated two junk drawers and realized we hadn't missed anything. Yeah, that's phenomenal. The drawers of stuff that we have that just sits there endlessly. There's a great skit by, oh, now I'm drawing a blank. My favorite comedian, one of, called Stuff. Someone will help me out here. I talk about this all the time. George Carlin. It's called Stuff. We have drawers for our stuff and stuff for our stuff. So we hold on to a lot more than we need. Nicole, maintaining the boundaries that I set, it has added a lot of peace and clarity to my mental state. Yeah, that's great. That's great. I think just the awareness of setting boundaries and sticking to them, and how much it can impact you mentally is beautiful. I have slowly, with barely any willingness at all, begun to have a really disciplined schedule of meditation and running in the morning. That's great. That it's just kind of happening. And I think when I said that earlier, I look at the precepts a lot this way, that it's important, I think, not to force precepts or force change into your life. I think that we engage in changes in our life when we're really ready for them. So the meditation, the running, it's wonderful. Stacy, I've added more regular meditation. Some days I feel better, and interestingly, some days I feel worse. I've heard this can happen. It's not always peaceful. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I talk about that all the time, that if you're in an angry, miserable, depressed mood and you sit down and do meditation for 5 minutes, it's not automatically going to change everything about how you feel. Sometimes it will intensify. So, but still just sitting with it and being with it is important. So let's see. Impact is having actual integrity and stability through the day. Definitely. I think when we set boundaries for ourselves and we maintain them, a lot of that requires integrity and stability. Or requires integrity, which then leads to stability. So, Mario, regular sleep schedule definitely help with my mood and energy. That's also really important. Taking care of our sleep. Again, the mental, emotional health is so critical. Reminder to get rid of more stuffs. Yes. Samir, I've been working on consciously recognizing my feelings: hungry, tired, frustrated, happy. I've seen that my anger and anxiety is less and others are happy around me. Absolutely. I think it's so critical to begin to recognize how much taking care of ourselves and our emotions, how much that impacts those around us. And really, I think that's the heart of this practice, is making sure that what we're doing really does have a big impact and benefit others. So last one here. I like change as long as it doesn't happen anywhere near me. Monk TV. Maybe that's a reference to a TV show or a joke. I'm not sure, but I can see the humor in that for one who doesn't like change. A lot of us don't like change, and unfortunately, change is happening every moment. It's inevitable, and we either have aversion and resist it, or we just get along. Go along for the ride with the change and embrace it in our lives. So, all right. So with that, we'll go ahead and we'll start the meditation practice. For those who are new or maybe joining us for the first time, a couple things I'll tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. All right, you won't float away. You won't have any mystical, magical experiences. You're not going to figure anything out whatsoever. The mind that races all day long won't shut off. Don't judge your practice, meaning don't ask yourself, is this working? Is it not working? Am I doing it right or wrong? We're just going to sit, we're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds where you are inside, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with sounds, and the practice is learning to get quiet and still within all of that. Posture, just trying to be comfortable. If you're on a cushion, slide into the front third, pushing the stomach forward, allows the back to straighten. Shoulders are relaxed. Hands can be on the knees or on the lap, whatever's comfortable. I will guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. And starting with the eyes closed, if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply going to continue this practice, observing sensation breath, expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. And then mind wanders, lost in thought. Recognize it, release that thought, return attention, focus to the breath. Letting go of expectations, letting go of judgments of the practice, just sitting, breathing. Where's your mind? Lost in thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Breathing in, follow breath in. Breathing out, follow breath out. Keeping the mind alert, aware of each sound, each thought, each physical sensation, yet concerned with nothing but sitting, breathing. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle, know what it's like to just sit and breathe, knowing with each breath there's nothing else to do, nowhere else to go, no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths slowly. And as you slowly open the eyes, slowly begin to move. And most important, with the practice of meditation, is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. And ask yourselves how you'd prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how we sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's not from the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It has everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. What that means very simply for us is every moment of our lives, things happen. We react. More stuff happens, more reactions. That's it. Now, most people respond to the last 20 minutes quietly, peacefully, still. The question is, how do you respond to everything else that's happening throughout your day? So all we're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. It's not an easy practice. It's not necessarily fun, but meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. It's sitting, breathing, becoming aware of your thoughts, what you think, what you say, and what you do, and learning to be kind. I try to simplify this practice. It can get confusing, I think, with lots of traditions, lineages, schools, books, teachers, 2,500 years of Buddhist teachings, which are really, I think, simplified in understanding what we think, what we say, and what we do. And that's it. I think that's where it starts. A few people mentioned earlier when I started tonight asking about change and what changes you've made in your lives. A few people referenced things that they've become aware of, consciously aware, recognizing their actions, their behaviors. And I think that's really where it starts. We are the ones that create great suffering in our lives, and we are the ones that create great joy in our lives. So one of my favorite Zen expressions is, to a worm in horseradish, the world is horseradish. So I know a few people that their outlook is always so negative with everything. There's always the negative. And if their mind is always focused on the negative, then that's how they're going to feel always. Now, I'm not suggesting that we, are kind of fake and get lost in this illusion of just pretending everything is great. The world is a mess. There's so much chaos and things happening and people's behaviors that are really quite disturbing. So it's not about pretending everything is wonderful, but it's also learning to see the impermanence of everything and learning to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and learning to stay positive throughout a lot of the challenges. So at this time, I want to just kind of open up to questions. I always like to use the remainder of the time to respond to what's on your mind. If you are joining us for the first time, welcome. There's a chat box there somewhere on your screen. Feel free to type in questions on meditation, Buddhist practice, and I'll use the next 20 minutes or so to just respond to questions. So I'll turn it over to you for that. And as you're, I think, preparing your questions or pondering or starting to type, I just kind of want to add these, that it's really eye-opening when you begin to explore what you think and what you say and what you do all day long. The essence of Buddhist teachings is to recognize that when we act out of greed, anger, and ignorance, we cause ourselves to suffer. So I think the ability to become aware of what are we thinking, what are we saying, and what are we doing is really important. And it's not that difficult if we just take time each day to slow down. To me, that's a lot of what the meditation practice is for, is it gives us time, whether it's 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes. It's not about how long we sit, but can we give ourselves time to just slow down and reflect on what are my thoughts, what are my words, what are my actions throughout my day? Because if you become aware of these, when you find yourselves in moments of just misery and depression and anger and sadness and all of these emotions that we feel, begin to explore that they're coming from your thoughts, your words, and your actions. Other people, other places, other things don't make us miserable and depressed. There are conditions that are happening around us, and we are choosing how to respond to them. And again, that doesn't mean that we're not faced with tremendous difficulty or challenges or people that trigger us. Those things are all there. Those people are all there. They're always going to be there. The difficulty in our lives is always going to be there. It's just going to change forms or change from person to person. You have one relationship with someone and things end up not so great. So you move on and you think the next one's going to be better. And um, you realize that the same problems you're having are carrying with you. And life is very much like that until we begin to explore and then change, like I brought up earlier, what we're thinking, what we're saying, and what we're doing. So, questions. Again, feel free to type them in. Meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with. I can ramble forever, but I really always prefer to respond to things that are on your mind specifically. During meditation, you said no one else to be. Can you elaborate on that? It always gives me a moment of peace to hear it. That's kind of I've been saying that for probably 10 years at the end of meditation, but it's the same line to do, nowhere else to go and no one else to be. Your question specifically, no one else to be. To elaborate on that, for me, it's a matter of recognizing that so much of our lives, whether it's from childhood to now, or whether it's just from 2 o'clock in the afternoon to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so much of our lives are spent wanting to be somebody else. Or to be doing something else, or to be somewhere else. Again, the line of nothing else to do, nowhere else to go, and no one else to be. So to really look at all three of them, I think, is probably the best way to explore this. But nothing else to do, so often we want to be doing something different from what we are doing. And the real frustrating and miserable part is so often we can be doing different than what we're doing, but for whatever reason, we choose not to. So it's a matter of, can we be with things as they are, nothing else to do? Why do we always have to plan and build and conquer and create and, so much stuff to do always? Can we learn to just be with this present moment as it is? Nowhere else to go. I think that's a great one right now during our, period of dealing with this pandemic and a lot of people quarantined and staying home. We're in many ways forced to just be home or wherever that is for you. So nowhere else to go is a matter of, can we be comfortable with where we are at all times? So often people come to Dharma Bum Temple or a place like that because they want to get out of where they are. And so they run to their peaceful place, and can we learn to just be at peace with where we are? And then the last one, again, Samir, what you're asking about, no one else to be. As I started to say earlier, it has a lot to do with these ideas or stories in our heads about the people we think we should be, as if who we are is not okay or not good enough. So many people grow up or go through periods of their lives where they feel they're not enough. Someone wants them to be more of this or more of that, or better at this or better at that. We want ourselves to be more of this or more of that. We're often creating this story and image in our head of who we think we should be, as opposed to just recognizing, this is who I am, right? I am Jeff. That's the name my parents gave me. And I am this person that is a series of causes and conditions throughout my entire life. So I'm someone who's been happy in my life. I'm someone who's been miserable in my life. I'm someone who's done wonderful things in my life. And I'm someone who's done terrible things in my life. I'm someone who's helped people and I'm someone who's harmed people. So we've done all of these things. But as I talk about often, not allowing any of those things to define who you are, other than just a series of causes and conditions, karma, things I've done. So wanting to be someone else is ridiculous. Just be aware of what you do throughout your day. Be aware of your actions. As the Buddha taught, body, speech, and mind, what you think, what you say, and what you do. Be aware of that. But, for you specifically, Samir, I'm sure there's days you say, I wish I was a better parent, or I wish I was a better husband, or I wish I was a better this or that. Right? There's often these things we tell ourselves, these stories. And for me, it's looking at the Suzuki Roshi quote where he says, you're all perfect exactly how you are, and you all could use a little improvement. So I think that's important to recognize that there's beauty in our lives as we are, but that doesn't mean that we get complacent and we still don't work on being a kinder, gentler, more decent human being. So you're stuck with you, Samir. I'm sorry. That's it. No one else to be. And that person that you call Samir, sometimes Samir, the examples I gave earlier, sometimes Samir is a better father than other times. Sometimes Samir is a better husband than other times. Right? So we are better at doing certain things or being certain ways at certain times, but that doesn't mean you need to be someone other than who you are. So hopefully that's helpful. Other questions? Meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with? I think learning to appreciate and love yourself as you are is really critical with this practice. A lot of people come into this really, with a kind of a negative view of themselves and a lot of self-hatred, self-anger, self-doubt. And I think having a more positive mindset and outlook on life is very beneficial. So, other questions? As you get to this place where you stop judging yourself so much and you stop critiquing yourself so much, it actually becomes easier to make changes in your life because, I know for me growing up, really just being this kind of angry person who was mean to a lot of people and had these views of myself that weren't so positive. Once you start to embrace that and accept that as part of your journey, you're more likely and more willing to explore the nature of who you are more honestly. And then it's a bit easier to make changes. But if you're afraid to look at the true nature of your mind and who you really are and what your actions and how your actions really impact the life of you and those around you, if you're not willing to look at those very honestly and openly, it's going to be very difficult throughout your life to make changes. If we spend, which is what I did most of my life, just making excuses for everything, then we're not really given a very authentic into how we're impacting the life of those around us. So again, for me, it all comes back to learning to take time each day to get quiet. Doesn't matter how long, but learning to sit quietly and just be with your breath, allowing everything around you to settle. All the chaos, the busy mind, the work, the family, the friends, the relationships, all the stuff that filter into our day, taking a few moments each time to just let it settle. And when we do that, we get a more clear view. There's a great Zen metaphor. If you think of a glass vase, and in it you have water and rocks and sand and pebbles of all sizes, and you pick it up and you start shaking it. And as you shake it, everything just becomes one big blurry mess. And as you set it down and you leave the vase alone, all the rocks and the sand and the pebbles settle. And then you're back with the clear water. So the meditation practice is really allowing yourself to get to that clear stillness where you can just reflect and see without forcing. Question from Carolyn. This has been one of the gifts of being isolated. I realize how important it is to be my own friend rather than fighting myself to be someone else. Thanks for sharing on this. Yeah, thank you, Carolyn, for sharing that. I think that I talk very often about how we always have difficulties and challenges in our lives, but I'd have to imagine for just about all of us that, dealing with the pandemic like this and where we really are isolated as much as possible, where isolation, staying at home, and all of those things globally are actually encouraged. It's a very hard time for so many people right now. And at the same time, like you're pointing out, we've been given this opportunity to be alone with ourselves. It's really a gift. So learning to, as you say, be your own friend is important. And I think the idea of being your own friend is really just a beautiful way to look at it. When we're a good friend to somebody, we listen to them, we understand them, we don't judge them, at least we try not to judge them. We make suggestions if they ask for it, or sometimes they don't ask. But being a good friend, we're just there to listen, appreciate, understand, love, and care for that friend. So can we do the same thing for ourselves? Can we be there to listen to ourselves, to appreciate ourselves, to respect ourselves, to not critique and judge ourselves, but continue to work on our character? So thanks, Carolyn, for sharing that. Other thoughts or questions? Meditation, Buddhist practice, anything? Early on, this practice really can be a little bit scary, meaning when you sit and listen and get to know yourself, if you don't like yourself, that's going to be really tough. And that's what I mean when I say it's scary, because I've always looked at Buddhist practice as just like holding up a mirror, and it's just reflecting back on yourself. A lot of us spend much of our lives avoiding ourselves. So this is not about anything outside of us, truly about what's inside. And again, sometimes that is scary. And that's why communities are important. There's meditation, Buddhist communities all over. We're virtual right now, but that's why finding communities wherever you are, be around people to practice and explore. That's what the word Sangha, and we take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, the triple gem. That community of people to practice with wherever it is so important, because as you explore your way of being, and you might not find it so pleasant, it's good to be around others who are there to really support you. So. Other questions? Excuse me. And making the changes are difficult. Again, another reason why it's important to have people around you and in your life that support your practice. Because when we try to create change in our lives, it can create a lot of hurdles, a lot of challenges. So, other questions? Good questions, good thoughts. The other thing I'll add to what you shared, Carolyn, is we do spend, I find, a lot of times fighting with ourselves. And I think that that's a struggle a lot of people, at least that I've sat with over the years, that there's that expression, we are our own worst enemy. There's a Buddhist text, the Dhammapada, and the first line is, the mind is the forerunner of all evil. And for me, it's just a reflection on how powerful the mind is. As I shared earlier with the expression of a worm in horseradish, to a worm in horseradish, the world is horseradish, that mind is so powerful in that it really does determine how we are emotionally and how we engage with people. So what we read, what we look at, what we listen to, everything that we take in impacts our mind. I always like to explore the Heart Sutra, and the practice is what we would call guarding the senses, that we spend so much of our lives, and in the Heart Sutra talks about eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, and having no sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, or thought. It doesn't mean all of these senses literally go away, but it's a metaphor for recognizing how much we're driven by these senses. And things we see, we crave, we desire. Things we smell, and we like the smell, we crave, we desire. We like the feel, we crave, we desire. So all of our senses are driving us all day long in ways that are beneficial and harmful. So the senses aren't necessarily going away, but can we guard them? Can we protect them? Can we see something we like and maybe not spend the next 8 hours chasing it? Can we smell something that we like and not spend the next 4 hours trying to go get it? At the same time, the sights and sounds and smells and tastes and touches that we have aversions to, can we also not completely run away and escape from them? Can we learn to be with them? So again, if you're new to this practice, it's not about making sure that you get everything you want and everything you like in your life. It's about being with things as it arises. So not allowing the senses to pull you around like a dog on a leash. So guarding the senses. Any other question before we close? All right, so I'll go ahead and I'll close on that. We'll join palms, and then I'll do a few announcements. So as a joining palms together, we'll do a transfer of merit. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to all beings in all directions. May all be at peace. May all be free from suffering. So a few quick announcements before here. We're not gurus. We're not masters. We're not looking for students. We're practitioners. Our best to take our Buddhist teachings and put it into terms. Just about every night we have different classes going on. Our family sangha has resumed. Our recovery sangha, handling addiction, drug, or anything that matter. The teenage group is every Sunday. College group has started again. Every morning, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. You can sit. So there's always something going on. Just check the website, thedharmabums.org, has the schedule. Buddha for You is also closed, but also selling online now. Temple has been closed March 12th. So 10 plus months. There's no plan anytime soon for us. Keeping the community safe and not putting anyone at risk is most important. So we will continue to be closed until we and the experts feel that it's safe to open. The book club also meeting again this weekend. I knew there was something I was forgetting. The book club meets twice a month. That'll be this weekend. Using the book Pristine Mind by Orjin Choang Rinpoche, a great Tibetan teacher. The book you can get on the Buddha for You website, so you can look at that. And if you missed the first meeting, that's fine. You can jump in and join anytime. So we will, announcement coming soon for a virtual volunteer program. So we've got a whole group of probably 20 now interested in that. So we'll have a meeting over the next couple weeks to get that going. So if I never see you again, think good thoughts, speak good words, do good deeds. That's really the heart of this practice. I wish you well, be safe. Please wear a mask, stay home as much as possible. And let's get through this together. So thank you all.